Hello, I'm Stacy Graham with the TPS Southern Region at MTSU, and this is another how-to webinar. Today I'm teaching about finding music recordings for use in the classroom. So this is specifically for teachers, but hopefully useful for everybody. So without further ado, I'm going to go to the Library of Congress website and show you a couple of the ways that you can make the most out of an initial search. So how do you find the music recordings that they have the Library of Congress website? Well, one way is to go to digital collections and then to narrow it down using the filters along the left-hand menus. So I am going to show you two different ways to do that. First, we're going to look in the music division, and then we're going to look under American Folklife Center. So within the music division, they have several different collections of primary sources. Now, these are going to have a lot of different types of primary sources that are not necessarily recordings of music. And so we want to actually narrow this down a little bit further and go under audio recording here. Because a lot of them are going to be sheet music or lyric sheets or text-based primary sources about musicians or music history. So this helps us get at just those music recordings. So we're going to look at a couple of these in particular. The Library of Congress celebrates the songs of America. Now, this is probably the best one for teachers to use on this whole page. And let's see, we're going to look at another one later. But if you wanted to look within any of these, for instance, Ragtime, remember that when you open it up, you go to Collection Items, and then you want to narrow down even further and click on that Audio Recordings button, and that'll take you straight to those, music recordings there. And okay, so the Library of Congress celebrates the songs of America is kind of like an exhibit that's already been curated, and I like it because it tells the history of the United States through music and organizes their primary sources in a lot of different ways that are really helpful for when you're teaching different time periods and different subjects in the classroom. So here are all the different ways that you can approach these. I like the historical topics. So, for instance, if you're teaching immigration history, political campaigns, you're looking at social movements, or labor history or different wars. These all have different informative background essays that are good for background for you or for maybe your older students, especially if they have research projects. But this is putting these songs into context and showing how the songs can be primary sources for what's going on in the United States at this time. But then it always has this shaded box that has specific selections that really illustrate what they're trying to say. So, for example, we're gonna listen to one of these. This is a duet full of longing about their beautiful Russian homeland. So this is talking about some experiences that some immigrants had. And we're going to listen. Okay, I think that might be hard to relate to for many of your students. They might not be used to the kind of scratchiness that some of these recordings have or the old-timey style of singing that these people would employ. But you can ask some questions about, well, what kind of feelings do these sound like these evoke? Look at the date, which was 1914. Why would they be recording a song like this in 1914, who would have been the audience for this kind of song? And how does this talk to the American story in general? So that's just one of many examples. Another way that they have these organized is under musical styles. And so this looks at four different categories of music and talks really about genres. So if you go under popular songs of the day, it goes through these major American musical genres and talks about how they developed and how that kind of interacts with the social and economic development of US history over time. And of course, there's a playlist for each one of these things. So if you go under jazz, they have examples there. And, if you go under minstrel songs, they have examples there as well, etc. I like the interactive maps feature. They have one specifically for the Civil War, which here in Tennessee we are well represented. If you go under mapping the songs of America, let's say, for instance, you are in Arkansas and you want your students to listen to songs that are about Arkansas or were recorded in Arkansas. So this collection has 70 of them, and this first one's actually really funny. It's not a song, it's just a recording of a man laughing. It's a very distinctive laugh. And it was actually recorded at a state penitentiary. So there's lots of different avenues of history that you can talk about with that one. Another way to present these to your students is through the timeline, where you're looking at different eras in history. And most of the recordings actually at the Library of Congress are going to be in this first half of the 20th century because of the advances in audio recording at that time and because of practices in folk song collecting at that time. But you can see that this is kind of takes you through the years song by song. So this is literally using songs to tell the history of the United States. And you can have a printable timeline too if you want to have students spread out at tables and look at them. There's so many other features within here that I wish I had time to show you, but we're going to leave it at that right now. And we're going to look at some of the collections that are under the American Folklife Center, which is part of the Library of Congress. And this has sponsored lots of different people going out in the field and taking field recordings. And this is where you get a lot of our first recordings of folk songs that, of course, are a lot older than this, but that were, made their way into the larger public consciousness at this time. One example that we're going to look at is the Florida Folklife from the WPA collections. So this is a New Deal collection. Again, if you go under collection items and filter for audio recording. All right. So for example, Let's Shake It is a lining holler, which is a railroad work song. And this is actually Zora Neale Hurston, who was working with the WPA at this time. She grew up there and she's remembering all these folk songs and sharing them with these folklife recorders and telling the stories about them and where she heard them from. So we're going to listen to an example.
This song I got at Callahan, Florida, which is a railroad center in the northern part of Florida. I got this in 1935. I don't remember the man's name that sung it to me, but I got it at Callahan at the railroad camp.
What type of song is it?
This is not exactly a song, it's a chant for the men lining. You know, a rail weighs 900 pounds, and the men have to take these lining bars and get it in shape to spike it down. And while they're doing that, they have a chant that, and also some songs that they use the rhythm to work it into place. And then the boss hollers, bring up my hammer gang, and they start to spiking it down. And this is a chant for lining a rail. Mobile, in Alabama, Fort Myers, in Florida, let's shake it, let's break it, let's shake it, just bring up my hammer gang.
Now look, I'd like you to do that again, but this time.
And they talk more and explain more about that song, but you can really hear in the rhythm of the song where they were driving their hammers down and doing the work while they chanted. And so that's a really cool primary source for talking about labor history, but also culture and folk life. And I just think it's really cool. So, yeah, that's an one of many examples within the American Folklife Center. And so we are going to go back to Music Division. There's one last one I want to show you. Let's see if I can find it. It's the National Jukebox. Um, it's recordings from Columbia Records and other companies from the years 1901 to 1925. Where is it? Excuse me. Sometimes you just have to type it in. So these are all commercial recordings done in professional studios. So they're going to have a bit more of a polished sound, even though the sound itself is going to be kind of scratchy because of the level of technology at the time. And these are free of copyright because they're old enough. And they just really paint a picture of American life at the turn of the 20th century. Now, I will say that there is a disclaimer because, of course, this first part of the 20th century is the era of Jim Crow. And so sometimes there's language involved that we no longer use in today's day and age. But I encourage you to make use of some of the articles and essays here, as well as the collection items. It's just a wonderful resource, and that's where they're pulling from for the Library of Congress Celebrates the Songs of America. So there are two last places I want to show you where you can find teaching resources for using songs. We're going to go to the teachers page to do that. The first one is the analysis sheet that's for sound recordings. So if you go under Getting Started with Primary Sources, and then you go under the Teacher's Guides and Analysis Tool, it's the one down at the bottom, Analyzing Sound Recordings. So these specific questions are tailor-made to the kinds of sources that we just heard. So that's what you would want to use in class. The other thing that I want to show you is that there is a blog, Teaching with the Library of Congress. And so each of these short articles has ideas for classroom use, and you can just search music within this blog and see what articles come up about specific primary sources or specific strategies for dealing with them. So that's all I have time for today. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to put the link to our website down in the description box. Feel free to contact us with any questions or comments that you might have. See you next time.